Good to see you. I have a question. Does anybody like fire? Yes. It's kind of scary that Jeremiah had the most enthusiasm on liking fire. It's okay though. I like fire too. Yeah. So this is taking longer to light than anticipated. I should have. Okay, let's get it ready. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I enjoy a good fire. Do you? I definitely love candles. I have lots of candles. This one smells like vanilla, so I'm going to be wanting to eat dessert. Luckily, we're having dessert afterwards. But anyways, yeah, I love a good fire. Candle looks nice. I have one of those that crackles. I don't know if I've ever seen those. You know what I'm talking about? I really like it, though, because, it's cold. And when I get to go in my house and I build a fire in the fireplace, and it's just cozy. I don't know do y'all have a fireplace in your house? Okay, so we have an actual wood one in ours. I don't know, there's all different ones, electric ones now. I'm like, that's just a TV. That's really all that is. But there's like all these different kinds now. But I like the fire, I like the sound and all that. Fire can be really wonderful. I was thinking about something that's kind of similar to fire in a lot of ways. And that thing is this, sex. Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. All right. And it's really similar in a lot of ways. So you're like, oh no, why did I come tonight? And let me just get kind of clear what I mean. So here's the deal about this. Okay, this fire inside this candle, this is pretty great. I mean, it's warm, it's nice, okay? If I was to take fire, though, and put it in somebody's hair, okay, she's like, no, okay, fire in your hair, not good, okay? Fire in the fireplace in my house is pretty nice, okay? I like it. It's a good thing in there. Fire raging through the house, okay? This is why, like, my son, he loves matches. He always wants to play with them. I'm like, no, okay? He's 3, 4, whatever. Anyways, so, because in the fireplace in here, good, okay? Raging through the house, on your hair, bad, okay? And when it's in where it's supposed to be, it's a good thing. Outside of it can be so destructive. It can cause so much pain and so much hurt outside. Now, we're talking about sex, okay? And when sex is in the right place, in the right location, it is a good thing. Outside of what is intended, it can be one of the most painful, harmful, destructive things in your life. So I think we should talk about it. Because I know we hear a lot of mixed messages. I remember the first time I heard the word, okay? I don't remember a lot of first words. Of course, that one sticks in my brain. I was in kindergarten. I was in first grade, kindergarten. I was 5. I'm sorry. If I'm trying to say I was 5. My brain. Okay. I was 5 in kindergarten, not 5th grade. You know what I'm trying to say here. Okay. And I was on the playground, and it was written on something, and this little girl, she was like, oh, and it's just like the thing and all that. And she told me, I remember the first time I heard, this is what she said, because she said, sex is bad. And I was like, oh, it is? And she goes, yes, it's bad. I was like, okay. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was bad. Okay, so that's the first thing I learned about sex. When I was a little kid, I was like, I know nothing about it, but that it's bad. And then I went in, it was in high school, middle school, and all that. And they brought in, do y'all do assemblies at your schools? Like where they bring somebody in, they do an assembly? So you're going to think I'm making this up. I'm not making this up. There's a guy came, his name was Ed. Okay, that's his actual name, and so he called himself Sex Ed, okay? And he came and gave us the sex talk, and he had pictures of herpes and gonorrhea and all these things, okay? And what I learned in middle school, high school, whatever grade that was, I can't remember, but I learned that sex is gross, okay? That was what I learned at that point in my life. And then he brought out like this final card, and he was like, and by the way, there's this thing called AIDS, and then I learned that sex will kill you, okay? This is what I was learning. And then you go to church and you heard a whole nother message and they talked about a lot of different things and they're like, it's bad, it's gross, it'll kill you. Make sure you save it for your wife. And it's like, that doesn't seem to work, right? And then I got this message though. They didn't actually say it like this, but this is the message that I got basically was that God hates sex, okay? This is what I was thinking as I was hearing all this side of things. But I want to just make sure we understand, okay, this is a bad image of what this is, okay? This is not how you should think about sex. But then there's another side, okay, which is also not correct, okay? And another way of hearing, you may think or hear things like this. Well, everyone's having sex. I mean, come on. What are you waiting for? Like everybody's doing. This is an attitude that some people have, okay? Or maybe they have this idea. It doesn't really have any consequences. Okay, as long as you use protection and you're safe, as long as you're safe, then there's no consequences. I mean, you might get pregnant or you might get STD, but as long as you're safe, then there's no consequences, right? Other than that, so it's relatively fine. And then there's this idea that, hey, it's only physical. It's like ping pong. It's like a good game, okay? It's like dessert, okay? You like dessert. makes you feel good and you want to have a lot of dessert, okay? And so this is the attitude that people have, okay? Now, I want to be clear. This is the wrong attitude too. Please don't take a picture of this, send it to your mom and be like, this is what PJ said, all right? No consequences, okay? No, okay? This is a wrong attitude. In fact, I want us to just think about some of these things a little further. Here's something that's really common, and this is something that a lot of people will say is it's only physical, but you need to know it is not only physical. This is true. It is not only physical. There is more to sex than the physical. And the truth is, everybody knows it. They just don't want to admit it. The people that might want to try to promote like that it's not, they know it. And here's how you know it. If it was just physical, then why is it when a child is sexually abused, that it lasts, the pain and the emotional trauma from that lasts so long in life? If it was just a physical thing. If it's just physical, then why is rape so much worse than just being beaten up for a woman? Why is it so much worse? Because we know it's not just physical. If it's just physical, how come every single time somebody comes to me and they can barely tell me what they want to say, and they say, I need to tell you something that I've never told anyone before, okay? Anytime I hear that phrase, I know what the next thing is going to be, because it's always the same thing. It's always something to do with a sexual mistake, a sex thing that they wish they hadn't done, that they can't tell anybody, and it feels this immense grief about something. Why? Because it's not just physical. In fact, we're going to see of course it's emotional, but it's also spiritual. Okay, it's deeper thing than that. And so it's not only physical. Okay, it's much more than that. And there's also this idea maybe that you might even believe that God hates sex. Okay, because that's just kind of what it sounds like. You come to church, it sounds like, well, he must hate it. Okay, but here's the truth: God created sex. In other words, God's cooler than you thought, okay? It was his idea. Like, he was making the world, okay? And he made plants and he made animals, and he was like, I've got a great idea, okay? And so he created sex. And because he created it, we can listen to him, and he knows how it's meant to be and how that it can be a good thing and not a painful, harmful thing. And when it is a good thing and when it is a destructive thing. And so I want to look at that and learn about that. And so we're gonna learn some stuff, and it goes way back in the Bible, okay? Like literally Genesis chapter 2, okay? And then, so right at the very beginning, God talks about what sex is supposed to be. And then Jesus quotes this passage. We're not going to read it, but you can look it up. And then Paul, who wrote a lot of the New Testament, quotes this passage. This is a passage that is quoted over and over and over again to teach us what sex is, what it's for, and how it can be a good thing, okay? And so we're going to go all the way back to Genesis chapter 2, and it says this: a man will leave his father and his mother and be united to his wife, and they will become one flesh. So just before we kind of get further in, it says a man will leave his father and mother, okay, and be united to his wife. So here's the thing: a man becomes a husband, a woman becomes a wife, and they are united, and they become, it says, one flesh. Say one flesh. One flesh. That was really lame. Say one flesh. Just be glad I'm not making you say sex, okay? So one flesh, okay? And here's the deal. He says there's this thing that happens, it's one flesh. I'm going to get into that in a minute, so I want you to remember. That's why I just say it. But I just want to, before we go into that, I want to say the next verse, okay? He says, the man and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame, okay? And the reason I show you this, I want to just make a point for you, a thought for you, that when sex is done in the way God intended, there is no shame involved. There's no guilt. There's none of that, I wish I wouldn't have. There's no of that. There is no fear when it's done in God's way. There's no fear of comparison. What do they think about me? What do they compare to? How do I measure up and stand up to this other person? There's no comparison. There's no fear of STDs or no fear of pregnancy. I mean, of course, you can get pregnant and married, but it's not a fear thing. It's like a yay thing, okay? And there's no fear of getting caught, okay? And here's the deal. If you're ever afraid of getting caught doing anything in your life, you're doing something that you shouldn't do, right? You're not afraid to get caught studying, doing your homework. It's like, oh no, you caught me. Okay, you're always caught doing something you're not supposed to do. And so there's no fear of that. There's no regret. There's no regret. There's none of that. I wish I never met them. I wish I could get that memory out of my head. I wish I could never. And when it's done in the way God intended, there's none of those things. So we said one flesh. What in the world is that? Okay, see, here's the thing that no one will tell you in culture, that you don't know unless you look into Scripture and you discover this is something that's talked about all through the Bible. Here in Genesis chapter 2, and then much later, both Jesus and Paul talk about one flesh. It is the joining of two people. Jesus said, what God has joined together, let people not separate. One flesh is what happens when two people have sex with each other. That there is a joining of them, okay? And it's a spiritual thing. Paul says it's like a great mystery. He doesn't understand it already. It's like a great mystery. And it's not just between a husband and wife, okay? Paul says it can happen between a man and a prostitute. Okay, and people are like, no, that's just physical. I mean, there's no love, there's nothing there. No, Paul would go, no, that's the joining of two people into something called one flesh. And here's the deal. When two people are joined together this way, and then they later separate because, we don't know each other, we find somebody else and all that, there is a piece left behind with them, and there's some left behind with them, and there is something inside their heart, inside their spirit that is broken and hurt. And this is something that is hard for people to grasp and hard for people to understand because it's a spiritual thing and it's a deep thing. But if people will open your mind, if you'll open your mind, you can probably even sense that it's true. And that there's more to this than just some physical act. That is a spiritual thing that God does in two people. And so the danger is when we start just treating it like something physical. We start joining our lives with other people. And we experience this separating that leaves hearts broken, spirits messed up, and relationships not reaching what they should be. So at this point, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about talking to you about this, and just be glad you're not me, because this is not fun necessarily, okay? I mean, you might be going, this is great, and some of you are like, please never do this again. But okay, I'm like, how do you go, okay, so I could spend the next, we have 14 minutes and 35 seconds, okay? I could spend that time just trying to convince you, hey, this is something that you need to do. This is why it'll hurt you so bad and all this kind of stuff. Okay, but I think more important than that is, well, first of all, if you are a believer in Jesus, okay, you have the desire to obey him, yes? If you're a Christian, you want to obey him. Do you believe that God has good for you? Do you believe that? Anybody say yes? Okay, then you believe that God's commands for you are for your good, yes? Okay, that is true here too. That is true with this. These commands are for your good. They're not just because, God, he doesn't hate this, he created this. And so the commands he has are for your good. And so we need to keep that in our mind. In fact, what I like to think of this is not, God's keeping something from me, but that he's teaching me to protect something. Because he created sex to join two people in marriage. And when it's that way, it is a great thing, but it has to be protected. And what we're going to discover is, I want to tell you how to protect it. Because, I could try to convince you, but if you just love Jesus and decide, I want to follow him, then I think you're going to do this. And now, I know there may be some people like, well, I don't believe in Jesus, I don't care about any of that. Okay, so let me just say this for you. Can you at least do two things? First of all, can you recognize that it's not just something that's physical? That there's more to it than that? And that there's something there to protect. Maybe you don't believe what God says about it, and maybe you can come to that at some point in your life, and I hope that you do. But at least recognize there's more to it than that. And then can you at least recognize this, okay? That the way that it's done in our world, in our country, or however you want to look at that, is not working. Okay, let me just show you a couple of things, okay? 50 to 60% of married men cheat on their spouses. That's broken. So you're like, man, they're terrible. I don't know. I don't have the number on women. 45 to 50% of married women, so it's less. All right, let's see. About 40% of divorces, could be more than that, end because of infidelity. That's cheating on your spouse. 56% of divorces had some part of it was due to obsessive interest in online pornography. That's broken. 1 in 4 teens will get a sexually transmitted disease this year. 3 in 10 American girls will get pregnant before they're 20. 3 in 10. Okay, if there's 10 of you, that's 3 of you, okay? That's a lot. Let's see. I know I had some more on here. My notes are kind of weird. Oh, here we go. 1 in 6 boys and 1 in 4 girls are sexually abused before they're 18, sorry. That's a lot. Okay, now do you see these are just a few statistics, okay? Look at what it's doing, how much hurt, how much pain there is. If everyone would just obey the commands of Scripture just for a little while, do you realize we would never have to talk about babies being born to mothers that don't want them. We'd never talk about abortion. That wouldn't be a thing because it wouldn't be happening. We wouldn't be talking about $18 billion a year spent on STD treatments, okay? We wouldn't be talking about AIDS. It would be wiped out. in just a short period of time because people were obeying. Okay, think of all the families that would have their mom and dad together if people would just live this one thing better. Okay, so you can see that what we're doing is broken. Now, maybe you don't think God's way is the way, but can you at least see that it's broken? Now, if you are a Christian and you are a believer, what I want to do is I want to help you with this because I know that, okay, knowing what you should do and doing it are two different things, okay? Has anybody ever stolen anything ever? Anybody? Come on, let's be honest. Okay, a lot of us. Okay, how many of you have lied? Okay, who's lied? Okay. Now, if you're a believer, you know those things are wrong, but you did them, okay? And here's what I'm saying. Now, we believe in forgiveness and that, okay? In this area of your life, there is often a strong temptation that is very difficult to overcome. And so I want to help you. And I know that because, well, I was used to not married. There was a time when I was not married. And I understand that temptation. Okay, my first real girlfriend, after a few months of dating, I remember it was like, everything was fine. And then somewhere along the way, this is what I felt like, okay? Something just began to burn inside of me. You know what I'm saying? And I remember talking to her about it. I was like, this is hard. It's like, we want to be pure, but there's just this, every time we're together and every time it's, just us, it's just this burning, okay? That we were trying to follow the Lord, but it was hard. And I've heard over the years, many people come to me and say, PJ, this is hard. Like, how do we stop? How do we do better? And so I want to help you because even if you've decided to obey God, it's still a difficult thing. So I want to give you a couple thoughts from Scripture and then some good pointers, some wisdom on how to do this. So here is some advice from a guy named Paul who wrote a lot about this. Okay, here's what he said. But if they cannot control themselves, and you may have felt this way at some point in your life, they should marry, for it is better to marry than to burn with passion. Remember I talked about how I felt like I was burning. Now, if you're reading this, you're going, okay, so here's his advice. Think about it. If you're struggling, just get married. You're like, oh, that's helpful. Okay, thank you, Paul. Okay, I'm 16. That's not even an option, okay? And that is an interesting thing. Now, if you were here a couple weeks ago, we talked about a typical progression, okay? A lot of times people are friends, and then they start dating, boyfriend, girlfriend thing, and then at some point, if that works out, then they get engaged and they get married, right? And so the problem is this is not really on the table for you right now, is it? Right? You're like, this is just, I mean, some of you it might be if you're like 18, okay? And you're maybe getting really close. But for most of us, it's not, for many of you, you're like, I don't even want to get married till I'm like 23, 24, 25. And that could be 10 years away if you're 15, 25 is a long way. And so he's saying, hey, just get married. He's like, okay, I can't do that. Well, just side thought. You don't have to pay attention to this, but just maybe this line's in the wrong place for a lot of us. Maybe this line should be here if this is not an option, okay? But just one thing. So that wasn't a very helpful verse. I recognize that. But the good news is he gave us one other option. He says you can get married, or he's going to give you another option. Are you ready for the other option? Here's the other one. He says, flee sexual immorality. Say flee. Flee. That's right. You got to flee. Now, that means this. It means to run away. If you can imagine a house is on fire and you're inside the house, what would you do? Well, I need to see what's on TV. No, you're going to run. You're going to get out of there. You're going to flee. You're going to get out, okay? So this is his advice. Okay, you either get married or you flee. Okay, you either get married or you flee sexual immorality. So this is where most of us are going to be. In fact, even after you get married, by the way, you're still going to have to flee sexual immorality, okay? Because that's how adultery happens, okay? That's how you cheat on a spouse, is you don't learn to do this. So this is something that you will do for your life, is that you have to learn to flee sexual immorality. You're like, okay, but PJ, okay, can you make out with them? Okay, that's really what I want to know. I don't care about all this stuff. Like, what can we do? Okay, and the question is always this, how far is too far? Like, physically, like, what can I do? When we're dating, how far is too far? And here's the deal, and here's my problem with this question. And I'm going to answer this question, but I'm going to give you my problem with the question first. And that is this. Most people want a line, okay? And I'm going to make myself a line, okay? They want a line, and the reason that you want a line is for this. Okay, there's my line. That's really crooked. There we go. Okay, so here we go. I want a line because, okay, I want to know if this over here is sin, and this is not sin. I want to know where the sin is so I can get right up here. I'm not sinning. See? Standing right. Wait, I can get a little closer. Wait, whoop, yep. I mean, is it on the line? Is it a sin? I don't know. Okay, but anyway, I want to get as close as I can. And here's why. Because I want to do as much of this as I can without sinning, right? Now I'm going to ask you a question. If this is sexual morality right here, does this look like fleeing to you? This is flirting. This is the opposite of fleeing. So if you want a line, and this is what most people want, they want a line so they can do as much of this stuff as possible, you are missing the point. The point in a line is to go, oh, I got to get away from that. It's like, hey, I'm getting kind of close. I got to move away. Okay, the point in a line, the point in knowing this is to stay away from it, not to get close to it. And here's another part of the problem. If you start living like this, I can tell you what will happen because it has happened to everyone that's ever lived that way, okay? At some point, you're going to do this. Oops. My hand slipped, mind of its own, whatever it is, okay? And some stupid moment, you're gonna go, oops, oh my gosh, we were so whatever, we're so close. And something's gonna happen, okay? I'm not gonna get into the details of what those things are gonna be, okay? And this is what you end up doing. Well, that wasn't so bad. I'll just move the line a little bit. And now in my own heart, that's not wrong anymore. And now I'm living in a new place. And guess what happens eventually? Oops. And we start, and the line is just going to keep moving until it is so far away from what God intended for you that you can't even recognize. You might as well not even have it. In fact, eventually you'll be like, I'm tired of a line. That just makes me feel bad. And you just get rid of the line. So that is not the purpose of a line, to get close. The purpose of a line is to get away. So how far is too far? Let me not answer your question further, okay? Because you're not going to like this answer, but lust is too far. And I know that's not a good answer for you, but I'm going to give you more, okay, give you details. Lust is too far. And why do I say that? Because that's what Jesus taught. Okay, this is the words of Jesus. He was talking to some people who, they're like, they don't commit adultery, but he said this. He said, but I tell you, anyone that looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And Jesus says this, hey, lust is too far. Lust is sexual immorality. And guess what? You can lust without ever touching a person. Certainly there can be lusting and touching, okay? But you can lust without even putting your hands on a person. You can lust without a touch. And so he's saying, hey, this is a deeper thing than that. So how do we live this? How do we not become a person that lusts after somebody else? What are some things? So I want to give you a few really, really practical things, okay? So if you're in a relationship, these are very useful for you. If you're thinking about dating someday, write these things down, okay? And try to use these things because they are practical things to help you flee sexual immorality, to help you stay away and to protect this thing that God's given to you. Okay, here's the first one. Avoid the rush to be physical. When you get in a relationship, you need to avoid the rush to be physical. So much of the time, people get in a relationship like, well, we got to start making out now or dating. It's like, that's not what the point of dating is, okay? Dating is to evaluate whether you're going to be married, okay? And if you begin the physical stuff, it becomes about the physical stuff. Just ask anybody older than you that's been there. It becomes all about that. And instead of evaluating for this, whether or not you really want to be with this person, your emotions and all of this stuff gets tied into the physical things that you're doing. I have talked to a lot of young adults, so the next stage of your life, and they will say things like this. I stayed with them for longer than I wanted to. I knew they were not the person for me, but I couldn't break up because of our emotional connection, physical connection that they had. And here's the deal. You start into a physical relationship with somebody, and you can't even properly date. So it messes things up. So here's the thing. I'm going to say avoid that rush to the physical. Just because you're dating doesn't mean you have to be doing physical things together, right? And so you don't have to be physical. You shouldn't do that rush, okay? And people say other stupid things, okay? It's like, well, don't we need to know if we're compatible physically? Okay, that's dumb. It's stupid. Yes, okay? If you're a guy, they're a girl, it's going to work when you get married, I can promise. And you're like, but what if they're a bad kisser? It's like, what? You can teach them, okay? You're married. It's not that big of a deal, okay? And I can tell you this, no man ever has said, I just wish my wife practiced with more people before we got married. Like, 'cause that is stupid, okay? So, no, you don't have to listen to the world. The world is wrong on this kind of stuff, okay? And so avoid the rush to be physical. Here's the next one. And this may be the most important one you hear. Don't be alone. Don't be alone. When you're in a relationship with somebody, don't be alone. If you will struggle when you're alone. That's how this happens. So I'll give you just an example from my life. When Tracy and I were dating, we made a decision to not be alone. So I had my own house already, okay? I had bought a house and I lived there alone, okay? It was my house. And we were dating and it's expensive to go to the movies and stuff all the time. So what we wanted to do was just watch shows on Netflix, okay? But what we did was we got in my car and we drove to Starbucks, and we parked in that front parking spot right by the door where I could get the free Wi-Fi, and we had my iPad, and we put my iPad on the console, and we watched Netflix in my car at Starbucks because we knew better than to go be alone. Because we know what happens when a couple gets on the couch all by themselves in a house with nobody around. Okay, you're going, well, weren't you a pastor at the time? Yes. So here's the deal. Self-control is not waiting until you're laying down on a couch with somebody and going, now I will have super self-control. Okay, no, you're going to fail. I'll pretty much guarantee it. In that moment, your brain is going to go, I have no control. Okay, that's what's going to happen to you. So self-control is going this, I'm not going to be alone with you. And so we made that decision. Okay, I'm not saying you can't like go to a restaurant alone, like you're sitting at Chili's talking to each other alone. I mean, if you're struggling physically there, we got some bigger problems, okay? We're gonna kick you out of Chili's, all right? And so, but I'm not saying you can't do that, but you should never be in a bedroom or in a house or parked on the side of the road somewhere in a car if you decide see the line, if that is where your line is, we're not gonna be alone anywhere where we could, have a problem. If the line is way back here, you're going to be good because you're not flirting with this. If your thing is, we're going to go somewhere where we're all alone, then we're going to try really, really hard not to do it again. Okay, guess what's going to happen? That's not going to work, okay? That's not going to work. So don't be alone. Here's the next one. Make pre-decision decisions. Pre-decision decisions. What do I mean? You don't wait till you're in a relationship and things are starting to heat up until okay, now I need to decide what's right or wrong. You don't wait until you're alone somewhere in a car and you're going, okay, what's too far? Okay, that is the wrong, no, you need to make decisions now, and you need to think about these things. And you need to, and they need to be based on Scripture and on what you believe God has led you to do. And so, okay, so it's like, well, wait, can you kiss somebody? Okay, well, kissing is not a sin. You're like, yes, thank you, please, I'm so glad you didn't say it's a sin. That would have ruined my life. Okay, no, okay, kissing is not a sin, okay? But you can sin while kissing. Do you understand? You can certainly lust after someone while kissing. Now, when I was your age, I was sitting in a service just like this, similar to this, and the person on stage said, kissing's not a sin. I didn't hear anything else he said. I thought, I'm going to kiss my girlfriend as much as possible because it's not a sin. And here's the thing, as I look back, as I begin to make out and do those things, I see how much lust was actually in my heart in those moments. Do I think you can give your girlfriend or boyfriend a kiss goodnight and it not be a sin? Yes. Do I think you need to be very, very, very careful about that? Yes. You should not put your hands anywhere that a normal swimsuit would touch. Now, sorry, that was just an awkward time to have a cough. When I was a teenager, I was in a youth service, and they said that, okay? And the guy in the back goes, what kind of swimsuit, okay? Now, my dad was my youth pastor, so you can think how awkward this all was for me. But he looks at the guy and goes, if that's the attitude of your heart, you're already lusting. And everyone in the room went, oh, okay. Because here's the truth. The guy was like, okay, I want to picture the skimpiest swim, because I want to get right on the line of that swimsuit, okay? And I went, okay, is that fleeing sexual immorality? Absolutely not. That is pursuing lust. Now, obviously, if you are in any of those areas, and I don't want to get any more detailed, that's lust, okay? And we need to recognize that. And so these are decisions, though, that you need to have decided when you get in a relationship, that this is not going to happen. I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to have that done to me. And you begin to think about these things, okay? Almost done. 2 more. Don't date anyone that doesn't share your convictions. That is the standards that God has put into your heart about these things. That does not share your beliefs about what is right or wrong when it comes to sexual sin. So let me just make it really easy, girls. Here's one for the girls. If a guy texts you and asks you to send a picture of yourself nude, do you know what the next text message is from you? We just broke up. Because you just found a guy who doesn't share your convictions. And a godly man is not going to ask you to do that. And so he just showed us cards. He doesn't share your convictions, you're done. Never send some guy some picture like that. That will cause, unbelievable amounts of problems for your life. And he'll say, oh, but I love you and you're so beautiful and I just need to see more of you. Okay. No. That's lust, that's not love, and that's not somebody that cares about you in a real way. So look, there's someone that doesn't share convictions. If you're dating somebody, trust me, it is hard enough with 2 people who share convictions and saying, we're going to be pure and do this right. But if you're in a relationship with somebody who doesn't want to be, and you're the one that's constantly saying, no, we're not, no, we're not, no, we're not, what a horrible struggle that you're setting yourself up for. So don't date someone without your convictions. Here's the last one. Decide what's feeding your fire and get rid of it. If you have ever seen a fire in a fireplace or outside, the fire will start to kind of simmer down and you can throw more wood in it. You know what I'm talking about? And it'll go back up. Okay, here's what I'm trying to get at here. There are some things in your life that just stirs up this inside of you. That brings it up to your mind. It could be all kinds of different things. It could be a show that you watch. Okay? It could be TikTok. I don't know what your TikTok feed is like, but whenever I've gotten on there and I started scrolling through, I'm like, there is a lot of disgustingness on this thing. And what I begin to notice is that it just wants to start making your brain think about this. It normalizes sexual immorality. And I'm not telling you to get off TikTok, then maybe that's what the Lord will tell you. I'll let you ask him. But here's what I am asking you, to look at the things that are just stirring this desire up in you. It might be a friendship. It might be some person in your life that's always talking about this and kind of pursuing that. It might be a relationship that you're in. It could be kissing. You're in a dating relationship, and every time you kiss, there's something that just starts to stir up inside of you, and that you just start driving straight towards that line. That may be something that's feeding your fire, and you need to think about what is stirring this up in me, and get rid of those things. Say, hey, I'm gonna avoid those things. That's how I flee, is by getting those things out of my head. And so I know when you talk about something like this, it lands in a lot of different places. Some of you are like, this is gross. Like, I don't want anything to do with this. Okay, and that may be where you're at. And then you have the other end. And some of you are looking back and say, well, I mean, I've already done a lot of stuff, okay? I have a lot of past, and, I don't know how to handle that with what you're just talking about. And I want to say this to you, okay? First of all, I've heard some say, well, I've already messed up. I'm not, didn't wait and all that, so what does it matter anymore, okay? If I was to burn my hand, okay, I wouldn't go, well, I'm already burned. Might as well just go, keep going. All right, just burn, okay. That's crazy, right? If you get burned, you get out of the fire and you let it heal. And here's what I want to say to you. If you've made mistakes in your past, you got to get out of the fire. You got to quit. You got to stop making the same mistakes so that the Lord can begin to heal you. And I know he'll heal you. He'll heal your heart. He'll work in you and he'll make you whole. But you can't just keep burning yourself and be like, Lord, just make this stop hurting. No, you've got to get out of that lifestyle and begin to let him heal. And this could be the one that began. You could begin tonight as you pray and just say, Lord, from now forward, I'm going to commit to living that way. And it may take a while for your heart to heal. It could take a long time. I'm not going to tell you, it might happen quick. It might take a while, but you just get out of that burning, okay? And let him begin to heal your heart. Or maybe you're in a relationship right now and you're on this side of the line. You need to make a commitment. Hey, we're going to do what's right. We're gonna stay pure, and I'm gonna stay away from that line. And that's something that you do in your heart. So I want to end with prayer, okay? And there's a lot of different things you might want prayer about. Maybe you've struggled in this area and dealt with this, and you need healing in your heart. You need strength to stay away from the line. You have something like that, we'd love to pray with you. But also, I just know sometimes you come with your own things that are going on in your life, okay? This has nothing to do with your life right now. You're like, I don't even care about that. I got my problem at home. I got my problem at school. Well, we want to pray for you. This is what this time of the service is for. Just the next couple of minutes, we're going to have people at the side of the room to pray with you about anything that you need. And so we're going to do that, and then we'll be dismissed and have our ice cream and stuff. So let me pray for you. When I say amen, we'll stand, and if you need prayer, you can go to the sides. Father, I thank you that you love us. Thank you for your guidance and your word that directs us. I pray that you would help us, Lord, to be people who live in purity, that run from immorality. And Lord, I pray that you would help those that are struggling, Lord, to find a new strength. And Lord, and those that may be filled with a shame or a guilt, to find healing and hope in your name. And I thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen.